presidential race gets new entrants as former governor of Ogun State, Ibukule Amosun, declares intention to run for the #1 seat in the nation. Elsewhere, forms are picked on behalf of Vice President Osinbajo, while Pastor Tunde Bakare picks his himself. INEC digs heels on June 3rd deadline for political parties to conduct primaries for nomination of their candidates for the coming elections, urges parties to ensure rancor-free process. Well, welcome to the program. I'm Kaido Kikiolu, live in the nation's capital, Abuja. We're sitting in for Shinwa Kimbaloye. Don't worry, he'll be back in a minute. Well, today, as I speak with you, I am just within a 9-kilometer radius from the seat of power. That's, of course, the presidential villa. Well, it's a roughly 15-minute drive, really, if you look at it. But that's as easy as it gets. I mean, talking about reaching the #1 seat. If you want to occupy that seat, one simple drive won't just do. In fact, it's not a game of horsepower. Yes, there's a little bit of horse trading here and there, but if you will get to that top seat, you will need vote power. Well, it's another day, another set of declarations here in Nigeria. And we'll get into that in a moment, but let's tell you about the #1 man in the nation. I'm talking about President Muhammadu Buhari, who is on a 2-day visit to Ebonyi State. That's in the southeast region of the country. Well, the president is visiting on the invitation of Governor Dave Umahi, where he has commissioned projects including the state-owned King David University of Medical Sciences, a twin flyover, 12-kilometer dualized federal road from Mbu, Enugu State to Buru, the university building and the university medical hospital facilities and equipment. Well, the president also inaugurated the 5-kilometer dualized airport road in Onweke, built by the state government, as well as the reconstructed St. Margaret Mai International Market Complex. Well, lots of projects to commission by the president, but top of it, the president commended Governor Dave Umahi on the quality of projects in Ebonyi State, saying he's not surprised at the standard of work because the two-time governor is an engineer of repute. Well, in the president's words, this is what the president said. He said, "I am not an engineer by discipline, but my eyes are very clear, even through my eyeglasses." In fact, the president went on to say, "I'm impressed with this performance," talking about Governor Dave Umahi, "and I know the project will last." He went on to congratulate the governor, saying he's pleased to associate with it. Well, for the #2 man, that's Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is in the running actually to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. He is now what you might call an official aspirant, and because he has picked the expression of interest form and the nomination form of the All Progressives Congress. This was done by the chairman of Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Kabiru Gaya, earlier today. In fact, the reason this is official is because the APC's constitution defines aspirants, in fact, or recognizes you as an aspirant only when you have picked the nomination and expression of interest form. So I guess it's official now. The vice president is an aspirant in the APC. Well, also today, the serving overseer of the Citadel Global Community Church, Nigeria, Pastor Tunde Bakare, purchased the APC's 2023 presidential nomination form and, of course, the expression of interest forms. Speaking after the peaking of the forms, the preacher who noted that God gives power to whoever he wills said he will support any of his fellow aspirants who clinches the APC's presidential ticket.
God rules in the affairs of men. He gives it to whosoever he wills. A southerner is a Nigerian, a northerner is a Nigerian. We trust God that the best, the most competent, and the fittest, and those who love truly our people, especially the poor, will rise to fix our nation. Many people run in the race. Only one will take the crown. There's only one seat. Whoever takes it, the rest of us must rise and join the person to build. East, west, north, south. Nigeria is my home.
Well, today didn't go without its fair share of declarations. Yes, forms are being picked, but more declarations. This time, former governor of Ogun State, Ibikule Amosun, has now joined the list of those vying to succeed President Buhari. He made the declaration here in Abuja during a televised event where dignitaries were present, including a fellow aspirant, Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi. Senator Amosun unveiled an 8-point agenda through which, he says, if elected, is expected to transform the country's fortunes.
I am convinced about our capacity to march together to a greater tomorrow for Nigeria in unity and faith. In the last 7 years, I have stood alongside others with President Muhammadu Buhari as he led the country in facing some of the gravest challenges of our country. In the last few weeks, the government has redoubled its efforts and remobilized the leadership of our security forces in confronting the security challenges to this nation. Under my leadership, I will consolidate on the ongoing processes by broadening and deepening, and where necessary, rebuilding the all-encompassing, coherent and comprehensive security structure to confront the different facets of our national security concerns and achieve the different fundamental purposes of national security. In order to achieve what Sir Ahmadu Bello, in his speech of self-government on 15 March 1957, described as the furtherance of the prosperity and happiness of the people of this land.
So you see, the race is getting even more intriguing, more intense, whatever word you choose. Now, while all these activities are going on within the political parties, outside of it, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says they have only 1 month and not 1 day extra to get their act together and present their flag bearers. In its timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general election, the umpire provides for parties to conduct their primaries for the nomination of candidates from 4th of April to 3rd of June 2022. So, time is ticking, as it were. So, a lot is going on in the political space. A lot of people are declaring questions about what exactly is going on. Are Nigerians getting confused? Is the choice now getting harder, seeing that there are way more people than a lot of Nigerians expected to be vying for that office? We'll get into the nitty-gritties just to help you see clearly, to know which way to turn, at least to know what qualities to look out for. But just before then, let's bring you a roundup of our major political stories. Here's a political roundup.
Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Cross River State Governor, Professor Ben Ayade, has restated his stance on ensuring a smooth transition of power to the southern part of the state. He gave the assurances at the Obong of Calabar's Palace, where the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, paid a courtesy visit to the state capital. The Vice President harped on tackling insecurity if given the opportunity to serve the nation. However, the Obong of Calabar stressed the need to dredge the Calabar River and revamp economic activities in the state.
For all of you from the south, please come together and talk to your sons and daughters so that they can give me one candidate. It's a lot easier for me to drive that process. As you are aware, I've even made personal enemies from my best of friends because of my position that power must go to the south. The only man who has stood with me that way very strongly is Prince Godi Jediagba, who has said my decision that power should go to the south is the right thing and he will stand with me.
Equity, transparency and good representation form part of the manifesto of Adedayo Olani Benjamin, our senatorial aspirant of the All Progressives Congress. Mrs. Benjamin says she will sponsor bills to improve the lives of the people. She also promises to address major infrastructure challenges, including the problem of poor water supply in the Federal Capital Territory.
There will be better health. There will be better agro-economy for women, for the youth. There will be institutional engagements, and it is an intervention against security challenges. Because where there's water, there's life, there's peace, there's harmony, there's happiness.
Members of the PDP National Assembly caucus are asking the party's presidential aspirants to show decorum as they go about canvassing for the support of delegates ahead of the primaries on May 28th and 29th this year. Speaking at a meeting with one of the PDP presidential aspirants in Abuja, the federal lawmakers say the success or failure of the PDP in the 2023 general elections will largely depend on the ability of its its members to remain united irrespective of who emerges as candidate. This appeal from the lawmakers is coming about a week after the party's presidential aspirants screening committee screened out 2 aspirants from the race. Women in the southwest region of Nigeria are expressing keen interest in the 2023 general elections with the hope of ending what they termed the marginalization of women in political leadership. The women made this declaration at a rally in Akure, the Ondo state capital, where they insist that Nigeria needs a leader that will lift the country out of the current infrastructural decay and poor leadership. According to them, such a leader will also encourage more women participation in politics. And the leadership of the Zenith Labour Party has been criticizing ministers and other appointed public office holders who refused to resign from office before joining the race for different elective positions in the 2023 general elections. They are asking that the president should speak up on the matter. The national chairman of the party, Mr. Dananya, made the call at a news conference after the party's National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja. According to him, every appointee of the government who is contesting in the 2023 general election must resign on the basis of morality and conscience, and the president must act immediately.
I don't think it is right for the president to keep quiet. I don't think it is right. It goes right deep into his person as #1 citizen of the Federal Republic. We look up so much from him. There are things we will take for granted that he will not allow it.
So we promise to help you get an understanding, a better understanding of what's going on within the political parties. In fact, largely the political space. People declaring day by day, the options getting wider and wider. And it looks like the average voter out there is wondering, where do we go from here? Who will be the right person? Because when there are more options, I tell you, it might be a bit more difficult to come up with one choice. But we have someone who understands how politics is played. In fact, he has a sense of view that covers political parties in Nigeria. And we're joined live in our Abuja studio tonight by Mr. Sonny Yabagi, who is IPAC National Chairman. IPAC, by the way, is Inter-Party Advisory Council. He's also the chairman, the national chairman of ADP. Mr. Yabagi Sonny, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'll be honest, I know you actually ran for the presidential seat at some point. I'm wondering why you didn't join the list this year.
Well, you know, the journey has just started. And I want you to understand one thing. There's a process to electing a candidate of a particular party. What we are witnessing today is primaries, you know, the build up to primaries, where one person out of all these people that have showed up, you know, who stepped out to be given the mandate to lead the country, will take place, which is, like you said earlier, I think INEC has brought out a timetable that says from April 4th to June 3rd, all the political parties must get their act together and conclude the process leading to fielding a candidate that Nigerians now can, you know, elect, you know, one of them out of the 18 political parties. That's if 18 political parties eventually, you know, field candidates. So what is happening today, to me, it's a welcome development. What it says is that Nigerians are now catching up with what politics is all about. It's about you, it's about me, it's about the man on the street, it's about everybody. That this is democracy, which is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. So there's something wrong in everybody coming out and saying, I want to be given the
Everybody.
Well, everybody for that matter.
Because,
well, but like I said, that's a process. You know, there's nothing wrong in you coming out to say, I want to be fielded as your candidate. You know, you can have, you know, all the members of the party as given allowed by the constitution of each political party. Once you are of the age, once you have met the constitutional requirement of becoming a president, you have the right, you know, to say, I want to be considered. So what is happening today, believe you me, is not anything that Nigerians should be worried about. The time you begin to worry is when parties finish their primaries and they are presented to you, you know, maybe about 18 individuals, Nigerians. That I'm saying, if 18 political parties all come out with their candidate, that is the time that Nigerians will now be taken to task to now query, the track records of these individuals, perhaps where they're coming from, what have they done before, what can they do for the country before you now vote for them.
I think maybe the term to use for Nigerians, maybe not worry. Yeah. I think it's more of a curiosity, thinking, what is going on here? I'm not sure that we've had this much people declare it in the history of Nigeria. I'm not even talking the Fourth Republic. Yeah. In the history, this much people declaring. The question is not who will declare next, it's who has not declared yet.
Exactly.
That's the question. And exactly. I know I asked you earlier on.
Why haven't I declared?
Yeah, why haven't you declared?
I said the process has just started.
So you are joining that list very soon.
Well, as a politician, I cannot tell you that I will never join, because never say never in a political. I'm not a politician. I mean, if you are in need, you are in need because you want to serve. That is the grand norm. So every politician you see, obviously wants to be given opportunity, in one capacity or the other. It doesn't have to be the presidency, per se. But if you think you have what it takes and you can deliver, of course, step out. The Constitution gives you the right. The party also, Constitution gives you the right. The rest now is, will Nigerians give you their vote, at the end of the day? So what is happening, perhaps, maybe the performance of the present administration is what has elicited, this, onslaught.
The performance, when you say performance, you mean good performance or bad performance? How do you qualify the performance?
Well, I qualify it as if the presidency is so easy, that, in spite of all that has happened, that, nothing has, people feel that maybe I can do better than what is happening today.
So you're saying the performance is good?
No, I'm not saying it's good in any way.
Okay,
what I'm saying is that people believe
better is good.
Yeah, people believe that they can do better than what the APC-led government is doing, for Nigeria today, or by extension, what President Muhammadu Buhari is giving Nigerians. The individuals coming out, in droves, believe that maybe they can do much better than what is happening.
So if you will rate the performance, if you put maybe a term or a figure to it, what would it be? Because you premise that on these people coming out saying they can do better. So how would you rate the performance to begin with?
No, the performance as it is today, and if you ask any sincere person in Nigeria, will tell you that this is not what we expect at all. Okay. And which means there's a lot to be done. And we have high regards for Mr. President. We know he can do much better than what is happening today. We know that something is happening that nobody can explain. Maybe the president himself cannot explain why what is happening is happening. It's not good enough. That is our judgment. And that is not to say that you throw away the baby with the bathwater. That's the end. What is 8 years in the life of a nation? We can do much better. And the fact that we are still one nation, I think, is a credit to President Buhari. The fact that in spite of all that is happening, we are still one indivisible nation.
There will always still be questions around, that term or that expression, because as we've seen, there are agitations. There continues to be agitations, but maybe we'll pick that up. But I still want you to help Nigerians understand what's at play here. Let's break this down further. So political pundits will usually describe aspirants. A lot of them are still aspirants now, anyway.
Exactly.
They'll describe them as either a contender, a front runner, a pretender. They even called some spoilers. So how can Nigerians identify who the maybe front runners, the contenders are, as against the pretenders and maybe the spoilers? Because they say spoilers essentially are those vying just to, divide the votes, essentially to divide the number of delegates and all of that. So how can Nigerians identify, if you can help us understand?
And even the ones that are challenging the sensibility, and I'm talking about sense of judgment of Nigerians. There are a lot of them today that have come out. How do you explain somebody that is in this government, that all the policies of this government, economic policy, social, every policy of the government, he is part and parcel of this government, and he has the audacity now to come out and say, elect me, on which performance?
So you don't think
are they disowning? Are they disowning Mr. President, that they have nothing to do with what is happening with this record that is there? When you, I mean, it's a laughable, situation that you find people that are part of this, that are in fact, when you want to talk about those that play a key role in the running of this government, they are number one that you mentioned after Mr. President. And those the same people are now electing me. For what? To kill us more?
Is there anything wrong in having
There's everything wrong,
vie?
even from the moral perspective. If really they think Nigerians have what is called brains, I don't think people will have, such people will have that.
But they didn't make the major decisions. They're not the president, as it were.
The president, leadership is not one person. It's not just President Muhammadu Buhari. No, that's not leadership. Leadership, I understand the ideas under this system of governance. Government that we have, the presidential system of government. The president is chief executive. The buck stops, at his table. But that is not it. The president is just to lead. He has advisors. He has ministers that are delegated his responsibilities to, who are pretending over the ministries. And those people have no. They don't think that they are responsible. They think they're not accountable for what is happening to us in this country today. So that's the point I'm making.
But what's the propriety, really, Mr. Yabagi-Sani, of that point you're making? Would you then go as far as saying nobody rather within the APC should even run, because that's the party in power right now? Would you go as far as saying that?
Oh, they even the electoral law went that far. That's what the electoral law says, that if you are a political appointee, and you want to contest, resign, before you join.
Well, there's a court ruling on that one.
Yeah, a court ruling on that
yes.
one. Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that if you are part and parcel of this administration, for God's sake, please save us, the embarrassment.
I don't think that's what the framers of that law thought of. In fact, the majority in the National Assembly is the APC, so yes. It would be ironic to yes. say that that's what that particular section is trying yes. to cure. Yes. I think essentially the sense is to try to reduce the influence you carry into those primaries as a person in government.
Especially the bad influence that has been put in the system.
That's your interpretation. That's your interpretation.
No, but
of
you
the
can
law.
See it yourself. I know you may not be able to say it, but I should say it.
It's not in the law. I can read the law for you, at least
No. I'm saying that what you said, people are not allowed to carry the influence into the next administration, isn't it? I say, well,
no, into the primaries. Come there with all the influence, the paraphernalia of
exactly.
office. You know how much that impacts on the process.
Certainly it does.
Exactly.
It does a lot. But with impunity, you can see what they are doing. They have no really respect for the laws of this land.
Well, the court asked that that part of the law be deleted, actually. So as it stands right now, there's been an appeal by the House of Representatives.
Has it been deleted?
So for you think that even though the court says that section should be deleted, yeah. you still think that those political appointees...
It is the law today.
No, the court has asked that it be deleted.
Yeah, but has it been deleted?
Well, the court has made the pronouncement. So as it stands right now, it remains deleted. Well, let's move on to this
yeah.
To this point, because it's been also said that a lot of his declarations is about horse trading, using that as bargaining chip. So they come out, show that I have a lot of support. In fact, I'll have the delegates anyway. So they use it as a bargaining chip to maybe get favors, positions in the future. Do you subscribe to that? Is that something you suspect as well?
Well, that is politics for you. Like I said, politics. People try to see how they can become relevant.
Right.
In the scheme of things, and it's not. There's nothing. They haven't done anything against the law, either the constitution or of the country or the constitution of their own party.
Right.
So it's allowed. But you see, the dramas that we are saying, we are seeing, and like I said before, is the fact that. We, the politicians, we should give Nigerians some credit.
Well, it's interesting you said we.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that you identified.
Exactly.
We have to anchor at this point.
Yeah.
So it's been a quite interesting conversation. But we've been doing this with Mr. Sani Yabagi, who is the National Chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. He's also the National Chairman of ADP and former presidential candidate, I should say. Thank you so much, Mr. Sani Yabagi, for your time tonight.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we'll go on a quick break now, and when we return, we'll be speaking with one man who has thrown his hat in the ring. We'll be taking a look at his pedigree and his plans and vision for Nigeria. You don't want to miss this conversation, so please stay with us. with our second guest tonight. He's a lawyer, politician, a former senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and at that time, Senate's minority leader. He also served 2 terms as governor of Akwa Ibom State from 2007 to 2015. He is a current minister of Niger Delta Affairs, and as of now, he has declared his intention to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And he joins us on the program tonight to speak on his plans for the nation. Our guest tonight is Senator Godswill Akpabio. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Just riding on the back of that conversation we had with Mr. Sani Yabagi, and he was referencing Section 8412. You're a lawyer, so this is a perfect question, as it were. Some days ago, the Speaker of the House of Representatives still advised that political appointees planning to, seek elective offices should resign, since it's safer to do so because you're not sure what the court will say eventually that this has been appealed. So how do you respond to the view, for example, of the Speaker?
Well, first, thank you for having me, and thank you to viewers. My name is Godswill Akpabio. I just declared yesterday, so my voice is not very good. Realize I was shouting because of the crowd, but I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank you for the wonderful job that channel has been doing. In terms of Section 84, subsection 12, it speaks about elections. If you wish to go into primaries, you should try to resign before you go there. Even before Mr. President assented to the bill, he had mentioned and pointed out that it was not in line with the Nigerian Constitution, which contemplates 30 days before elections. So no matter the act of parliament, no matter the law, the Constitution is a ground norm and is superior to any act of parliament. And moreover, it was shut down by a court of competent jurisdiction, I think somewhere in Omahia. So for now, that law does not exist. So
are you not worried that depending on how the appeal goes?
No. I would have been worried, but for the fact that the Constitution is there. So we will depend on the Constitution at the end of the day.
In spite of the statement by the chief lawmaker and the Speaker saying, I think it's safe to resign.
I will say that it is not a constitutional amendment. If we need to amend the Constitution of Nigeria, we can go ahead and do so. But I want to advise that anybody who is lucky enough to pick the ticket of his party, particularly for the presidency, should immediately resign. In order to give the president enough time to go around the entire country, not just to sell himself, but to also sell the program of his next administration to Nigerians.
Are you planning to resign?
As soon as my party gives me the opportunity, which I pray they do, and I will immediately resign and then I'll go around the country because I need to interact with the people. I need to see things for myself. I need to know the next agenda, and it has to be the people's agenda. Yes, I have my own ideas, but it's better to consult and also know what the people want extra. I love to promise less and do more. My pedigree says so.
Well, I was actually referring to resign even before maybe the primaries, if you don't get the ticket.
Again, it also depends on the guidelines of the party. Okay. Don't forget that because Section 8412 for now does not exist, having been shut down by the court of competent jurisdiction, we now have to depend on the guidelines of the party. Where the party's guideline says you should resign before the primaries, I will do so. And I will advise anybody to obey the guidelines. That's why it's important to follow due process.
Right. So let's talk about aspirant Godswill Akpabio. Your declaration added you to the now increasing list of aspirants, even though your party doesn't recognize people as aspirants until you pick up the nomination form and the expression of interest form. By the way, when is that going to happen?
It has already happened, but just like what you saw, it took you by surprise yesterday, the declaration. My form was picked up yesterday by a coalition of Northern youths who believe strongly in my capacity to cater for not just the youths of this country, but for the entire country. So I have the expression of interest form with me now, and I also have the nomination form with me.
And I think this will just dovetail in one of the major issues we're facing in the country, yes, which is economy, the economic indices. And you can point to inflation, unemployment, the value of the naira, and essentially the cost of living in the country today. And you are part of this government, this present government, as a Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. But I would like to link it to what we're seeing, especially in your party. So the nomination form and the expression of interest form costs 100 million naira.
Yes.
For some people, they've said it is too much. Some say It is not a big deal if you're planning to be the president to control trillions of naira. Then 100 million naira is a small thing. And so far, we have seen people picking these forms as though it's just 5 naira, as it will seem. So clearly, Nigeria is not a poor country, are we?
Nigeria is not supposed to be a poor country, but at the moment we are a poor country as a result of a lot of factors, which you didn't ask me. You talked about the 100 million. The 100 million, in my view, is very fair. You see, even in modern democracies like in America, it is not the candidate that sends himself into presidential election, it's the people. So when you talk about Nigerians, just 100 Nigerians, bringing out just one naira will give you 100 million. But you are talking about millions of Nigerians who are going to cast their vote.
Is that how you raised 100 million?
Because there was a fundraising about 1 month ago by Northern Youth in Kaduna, and they raised over 100 million.
And you didn't add anything?
I don't need to, because at that time I was still consulting to decide whether or not. And of course, when I saw that they had done that and convinced that I'm in a position to move the present administration, the activities, the legacies of the current administration to the next level, I assented to their request. And I want to think that any serious presidential candidate does not need to go into his bank account and bring out 100 million naira, because you are not the person going to vote for yourself. And that is why it's provided even in the Electoral Act that people should also contribute in order to ensure a very fantastic campaign. And so if the people have a buy-in in your coming into power, then you always remember that you have an obligation to deliver and to satisfy them.
Because, Senator, the thinking in political spaces is that, these forms are picked up by proxy. So the thinking is the aspirant essentially uses those people as front. So it would look like the people asked me to, as it is always said.
No.
Was that the case for you?
No, it's not the case. You see, the problem with Nigeria is that we never believe. Even when I was doing all the miracles in governance between 2007 and 2015, and I was being given awards everywhere, at Mapo Hall in Ibadan, I remember telling the people of Oyo State, I said, please come and see that in the Holy Book, when they said, oh, Jesus Christ was doing miracles, turning water into wine, doing this, doing that, people did not believe. I think one person, one of his aides at that time, just out of anger, shouted and said, please come and see. And I invited them to come to Akwa Ibom and see. And then people came and they saw and they testified. And even amongst the disciples of Christ, 12 of them, when they said Christ was risen, which of course we just celebrated Easter, one of them, Thomas, did not believe. He insisted that he must see Jesus Christ face to face, and he must see where the dagger entered and see where he was nailed to the cross before he would believe. So it's normal in human society for people to doubt. So I don't think the speculation that some people are behind the glamour for people to buy forms. In my own case, you'll be shocked that even some businessmen in Lagos, under the umbrella of GAUSO, they call it Girls Will Akpabio, Uncommon Transformation Support Organization, they also had money already ready to buy the form. But when they went to the National Secretariat, they found out that the coalition of Northern Youth had already bought the form.
Also, they beat them to it?
Yes, so they beat them to it. Okay. And so if you wait for the next 2 days, without this program now, you would have seen another group going to pay, because Nigerians really want.
So this is a public notice that they can stop now. You've already gotten your form.
No, so you can now inform them that the forms are in my hands.
Your Excellency, let's link this back to the economy, because as I said, Nigeria is not really a poor nation, because clearly we can get these funds. And I imagine just the quantum of things that can be achieved if people pull together. How do you plan really to redistribute wealth?
Well, I have done it before, and I'll do it again. The reality is that we always assume that Nigeria is a very wealthy country. That's not true. Because when you look at the number of mouths to feed, 200 million, vis-a-vis the mainstay of the economy being crude oil, at that time about 2.2 million barrels a day, compare that to what was happening in Libya, when Libya had just 4 million population, and they produced up to 4 million barrels of crude oil a day, then you will agree with me that we are not really a very rich nation. But we are endowed with a lot of mineral resources. We are endowed with human potentials, with intelligence and all that.
And that makes us rich.
And that makes us rich. Where I come from, it is not money that makes you a rich man. It is the people you have. So with 200 million, in stock. That is, you have a consumer population of 200 million. So if you're able to have very good bread, you can become a millionaire in a week. That means we are a rich country because of the people we have. Our diversity is the wealth of the nation. And also, we are bounded by the sea. The wealth of almost all the nations in the world are found in the sea. And some countries that do not have, they are landlocked, find it very difficult, to be able to go into export and all that. So we will harness the resources that we have in country. We will take care of the maritime industry. We will also take care of the mineral resources. We will have a better way of controlling the youthful population and giving them hope in order for them to bring out their intellect and then become more resourceful. And then, of course, we must continue the fight against corruption, because if we allow it, corruption can kill us. And I'll continue the same way the president is doing. What is he doing that is right in terms of fighting corruption that was not done in the past? Corruption has a twin brother, and that twin brother is poverty. So you cannot fight corruption without fighting poverty. And so with the social nets put in place, social investment programs to assist the poorest poor in the country, vis-a-vis, empowering the people and then also fighting corruption, it means we are tackling poverty. As we tackle poverty, you also reduce corruption. And because corruption deepens poverty, while poverty leads to corruption. So, in a way, I believe strongly that, yes, the economy may be what it is today, but don't forget there are a lot of factors that brought us to where we are. This administration inherited a very poor situation, and then that poor situation was exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost all over the world, it has been very difficult. In some countries, you even have people lining up for a handout. We should praise this current administration. So it's 2 years of lockdown, more or less, from 2020. It's not been easy for the whole world. Things came almost to a halt economically.
But Senator,
we are doing well.
COVID came in 2020.
2020, just 2019, really.
That's
but it was officially. It arrived in Nigeria officially.
Yeah, we declared our lockdowns in March, essentially. So 2020.
Yes,
and this administration had 4 years, at first 2015 to 2019, and that was in the second year of this administration. So, I mean, there will still be questions about just how much COVID impacted, but let's still tie this back, because, I mean, these are some of the things you will hear candidates or aspirants this time around say. I would fix the economy, ensure that we get employment. It's sort of generic, and you will not blame Nigerians for getting tired of hearing the same thing. So, I mean, you have a benefit tonight of being specific. Speak to what affects Nigerians specifically. What is your game plan?
Well, let me point out that there are 3 major issues affecting Nigeria at the moment. The first issue is insecurity. The second issue is that of unity, what I may call national integration. And then, of course, the third issue is the issue of economy that you are mentioning. If we can tackle those 3 issues effectively, I can tell you that Nigeria will be on a major rise, will be greater than what we are at the moment. And then I want to also let you know that some countries like Indonesia and others have managed their economy so poorly, so badly, and the effect on the people are amazingly terrible. Even this COVID we are talking about, was it Caracas or one of those smaller countries? You saw what happened? They were dragging dead bodies on the street. Families were dragging dead bodies to put on the street. The bodies were decomposing and all that. People thought we were going to get to that level of pandemic in this country. But this administration has done a fantastic job. So Nigerians fail to see the best of itself. We look out for the worst, and particularly for the press. I always try to advise that, yes, we were set up to fight colonial masters. The colonial masters have since gone.
The press was set up to fight colonial masters?
Of course, that was the essence of the press at that time. West African pilot, all of them. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Enahoro, all of them that was more or less the agenda.
Senator
to pursue the colonial masters,
you have worked
not
with the
to
press.
Inform the people. No,
there are no colonial masters anymore.
So that's the point.
The job of the press is to inform,
now look out
to
for
educate,
the best,
and set the agenda.
You must look out for the best in any administration. You must propagate the best that you see in your country. The colonial masters are gone. It's now we. We now have to look out and promote those things that will lead to national integration and also lead to revival and reinvigoration of the Nigerian economy. So for me, I believe that if we can tackle those 3 major issues I've mentioned to you, then Nigeria will be on the rise. And if you ask me, how did I do it? In my state, I was probably the only governor in Nigeria that was able to do 80% in terms of capital allocation on a yearly basis and 20% recurrent. I plugged the loopholes of leakages in the system, and that is why we had the kind of outflow of capital projects that you saw. You cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So the heydays of what you used to hear in Akwa Ibom, some people said Akwa Ibom are okay. Some said uncommon transformation. In fact, Nigerians are not wrong in urging me to come out. And I'm convinced within me that based on the love I've seen this current president show to Nigeria, you won't believe it. Continuing old projects that were started by past administrations, and on a daily basis, churning out projects after projects in order to build the infrastructure and lay the foundation for the growth of the nation, with a good president coming out in 2023. Don't forget, it must not be God's will Akpabio. But if it is God's will Akpabio, then it means you should be sure that yes, indeed, Nigeria will go higher than where we are.
Okay, we'll get to that point, but you probably didn't hear me when I said that you were in the PDP at the time when you said you did great things in your party. So that was in the PDP. How are we sure you can do that in the APC of today?
No. It's a leadership. Once it's in your DNA, it's in your DNA. So don't worry about it. Political party is a vehicle. It's almost like a supermarket. The people come in and go out. Those who started PDP are probably in APC today. I know people who left APC in 2019, and 1 week later, they became presidential candidates, became senatorial candidates, became governorship candidates, and vice versa. So the distinction should not be there. You look at the character, you look at the record. You don't need to like my face, but please look at my record. If my record is good enough, then you must join hands with the Nigerian youths, the women, and all those who are clamoring that God's will should be done in 2023.
So essentially you're saying there's no difference between the APC and
I wouldn't say there's a lot of difference. Maybe just in name, to be very honest with you. In my personal opinion, yes, this side is much more progressive, and we thought the other side were capitalists. But when you have a lot of capitalists coming into the APC, are you going to say that APC is still the same again? So for me, I think that the only difference is that one is in power and one is in opposition. But even when I was in opposition, I pointed out that you have to engage in constructive opposition. You must have the interests of Nigeria at heart. The only political party I like to belong is Nigeria. And my agenda is Nigeria. And that's why I'm running for the presidency of this country.
So tomorrow you can go back to the PDP, whichever works.
I won't be able to go back to the PDP, personally. But I'm not one of those who will say that if I go back, I will die. I don't know how they put it. They said, should I go back? I will commit suicide. I'm not one of those people. But for me, this is my last bus stop. I'm not, if events force me to join the party, number one, I saw the sincerity of Mr. President. I saw his efforts when I was in National Assembly. I also saw the efforts of people who assisted to bring him into power, attempting to abandon him and attempting to derail him. And I said, no, this cannot happen, because you have to think Nigerian. You mustn't continue to think of your personal interest alone. Whether you're happy or not with the people in government, you must think of Nigeria. That was why I said, no, I must step out and join this president to continue to move this country forward, because I know he's doing a great job for the country.
You know, you won the governorship election on the back of that slogan, let God's will be done.
Let God's will be done.
And I'd like you to paint this picture of God's will that you see for Nigeria. Paint that picture for Nigerians. What does God's will look like for Nigeria?
For whether you call Allah, or whether you call God, or whatever name, Jehovah, there is only one God, a supreme being. And that supreme being is love. That is the picture you need to know. If you love your children, your child cannot ask you for bread, and you give the child a stone. So the cardinal principle that should guide governance in this country is love. And that love also must transcend boundaries. Irrespective of whether you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, or whether you are from this ethnic group or that ethnic group, that should not come in. So that is the God's will I like to see. I like to see Nigerians loving themselves. If I love you, I will not kidnap you. If I love you, I will not come and behead you. If I love you, you will not be standing looking for PVC somewhere in Imo State, and I will come with gun and start killing you because I'm trying to agitate that I'm not happy, I want a new republic or whatever. Are you getting my point? Nobody can harm the other if you love. So let us say that God's will for the people signifies love. And love brings happiness. And of course, happiness brings prosperity. Because at the end of the day, what happened in my state was born out of love. And not so much out of money. You understand? Not that we were the richest in my tenure as governor. No. But because I had the love of the people in my heart.
And you want to be president.
I had the love of Nigerians in my heart. And I want to extend that love to the entirety of Nigeria. It's very, very serious.
Which is why you want to be president.
Let us forget the number of people coming out for presidential race. Let us rather welcome them. But let's know that we have issues. And that issue is, may Almighty Allah, may Almighty God look into the heart and the sincerity of Nigerians and bring out the best that would love this country. Because if you love this country, you give this country quality infrastructure. If you love this country, you unite this country. If you love this country, you will not know the difference between your children and Nigerians on the road. The same way I was able to give free education to all Nigerian children who found themselves in Akwa Ibom State for 8 years.
Okay.
And that's the same way I want to. You must carry this country like an egg, in your heart, not in your mouth.
Okay. Well, Your Excellency, so essentially you want this God's will to be done. That's why you're running for president.
For love to prevail.
So would you say that this current administration is God's will for Nigeria?
Well, I believe so, because if you remember what happened at the beginning, there was this current president at the time. In the opposition were abusing him. Of course, he also must have abused us then in government at that time. And then, all of a sudden, one day, he came out publicly and said, I'm no longer going to run for the presidency of Nigeria. So then today, he's president of Nigeria. You know what happened? Where the power of man stops is where the power of God starts. It's at that time that God said, no, Nigeria still needs you. Nigeria needs a fatherly figure. Nigeria needs somebody who can blend. Because we have forgotten all the problems that happened at that time in the PDP. We have even forgotten the fact that there was a time I, as chairman of the ruling governors in the country, protested to the government of the day that we're not getting revenue from oil. We're getting zero allocation, almost on a monthly basis. We have forgotten all those things. So for somebody to come at the time he came, I believe it was God's will. And I still believe it is God's will. And I assure you that based on what I've witnessed personally in the Federal Executive Council, there has never been anything like presidential commissioning in the NDDC in 19 years. But this man has done 3 presidential commissioning, nobody has looked. NDDC used to pay about 300 million a year as rent for 19 years. And yet spent trillions. Well, and today, Senator, he has finished 26-story building for them. He has finished 13-story building for them. Right. Finished another ancillary 4-story structures. And he has done 3 presidential commissionings in 1 year.
Well, because of our time,
and this year he will do more.
Let's talk security now. I mean, yes. A lot of areas to cover. We've touched on economy at least. But in terms of security, and I mean, Nigerians feel this better than anyone can even describe to them. And it perhaps ties back to the question of God's will as well. So what are you planning to do, or what do you hope to do? What kind of vision do you have to solve that intractable security problem?
Again, love.
Are you going to legislate on love? How would you do that?
If we can propagate love in Nigeria, even the security services would love themselves and would love their country.
How will that be done?
Let me tell you what I suspect is going to happen in 2023. This is just between you and I. Don't tell anybody.
And our viewers.
Okay, maybe the viewers. Do you know that in 1968, when the Nigerian Biafra War was going on, Pele, the football legend, visited Nigeria. On that day, both the Biafran troop and the Nigerian troop agreed to a ceasefire to welcome Pele. And they were crossing enemy lines and exchanging beer, exchanging bread, exchanging food, and exchanging banters. After Pele departed, the war continued. What you are seeing today is that as soon as the will of God is done in Nigeria, everything will come to an end.
So is football the solution?
No, I didn't get you.
Is football the solution?
It's not. I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about the import of that decision, that everything came to an end. Don't forget that God controls the affairs of men. And so if God puts love in your heart, you will not go out there killing people, kidnapping them and all that. I'm saying that when the will of God is done in 2023, that even there will be a truce, even among the kidnappers, among the miscreants, and among those who are enemies of Nigeria sponsoring all this.
I wonder what you will say then if another candidate emerges. Let's say your party chooses a consensus option. Would you still say that's God's will?
Well, what I believe I will do is that, you know, at the moment, I'm in charge of Niger Delta, and particularly South-South region. And then what has happened in the South-South region? You have seen the peace in the South-South region. It's the most peaceful region today. You have seen the fact that people are much more focused. You have seen the forensic audit that we have completed in the NDDC. You won't hear about scandalous allegations of theft and corruption any longer. And then you can see even the fact that there's nothing like militancy in the Niger Delta region. So I'm not saying that I'm the one doing it. I believe it is the love that I've shown my stakeholders and my youth.
Well, this question is about consensus. Yes, I understand you want to sell, definitely, but this is particularly about consensus.
You're getting me. You're also a politician because you really got what I want. The question of consensus, this is the reason why that section 84:12 could not have worked. Because you can't say that consensus is election. And then some political parties have in their guideline, selection. Selection is not election. So the contemplation of election, in my view, even though the matter is before the court, is that as enshrined in the Nigerian constitution, which is general election, that you must resign 30 days to the general election.
So again,
consensus is not really election.
So let me rephrase this. What would be your reaction if your party chooses the consensus way?
And the person is me? I'll be very excited.
The person is not you.
Are you contesting?
It's a question.
Well, if the person is not me, I will try my best to see if the person can work with me, and all the ideas that I have for the betterment of this country and for the security of this country, I'll lay it before that person.
Well, it's also been said, our guests before said that, you know, nobody in this government exactly has a moral right to come out and say, I want to be president. It's either you're trying to say, the president has not done enough, which is why I want to come and fix things. Or he wonders, what exactly do you want to continue? So if you can do that in a minute before I put in my last question,
yes.
how do you respond?
If all the people in this government have every right to come and say they want to be president, because they have been able to work under a man of integrity. They've seen his efforts, even in difficult periods, despite the conspiracies of enemies of Nigeria. Don't forget that some of these insecurity you are seeing are not Nigerian made. Some of them are imported. And every administration has its own challenge. Would you say that George Bush did not love the people of America when 9/11 happened, and in one day alone, over 4,000 Americans were wiped out, including visitors? Will you go and blame George Bush for that? Will you blame the dear then President Shagari for Maitasine riot?
But you know, after the 9/11, we didn't see subsequent attacks.
Of course,
in fact,
no. America has
the DSS came out to say that we're seeing the modus operandi of pre-2015 again.
No. Well, you know, wasn't America that predicted that Nigeria was going to come to an end?
No, this is particularly, I gave you the DSS report example. The DSS came out to say, we're seeing the modus operandi of terrorists pre-2015. What they were doing pre-2015 is what we're beginning to see now. So clearly, we have a major challenge.
Whatever they are doing now, I believe that the enemies you are seeing today, you will see them no more. So the reason why I said every person in this government has a right and a moral justification to come out to seek presidency is because the government is doing what you cannot know. Security is not something you discuss on television.
No, it's what you can see, Senator.
The number of attacks that have been repelled or that you are not aware of are more than the ones that you have seen. So once in a while, when you see something slips by, it's like a telephone. When it clocks, because you know it's like we call it the Q theory. Every line comes in and it clocks and it jams, and no line comes out. Then suddenly one call passes through.
Well, it's interesting you are going back to your experience in the telecoms industry. But on a final note, Your Excellency, let's round up with this question. Just last year, I think December, you said that the president was still studying the NDDC audit report, and that's a report a lot of Nigerians were looking forward to.
It's been implemented. I'm sorry.
So where are we now with that report?
Where we are now is that
have people been taken to court?
If you go to the EFCC today, you will see not less than 40 past and present contractors of NDDC on the ground. Where we are now is
being investigated,
and monies are being recovered, and many have gone back to do projects. I have sent people to commission roads that were awarded in 2006, monies collected, and then of course abandoned. We have commissioned over 81 roads as I speak with you now, and a lot of sterilization programs that are going on.
I just wonder.
No, just to let you know.
We have to round up now.
I know, but let me.
But will we get to see the outcome of that audit report?
Yes, definitely.
We will. Okay.
The outcome will come with even the outcome of the implementation.
All right, we have to anchor
and then
now.
you'll be very proud of this president.
We have to anchor now. It's been quite an interesting conversation with you. Clearly, the coming days will be intriguing in the political space.
Intriguing.
But it's been a show tonight, Senator Godswill.
But I hope you watch what happened yesterday.
Oh, clearly. But we have to run now. We're going to hopefully continue this conversation another time. Your Excellency.
You don't need to.
Senator Godswill is a former governor of Akwa Ibom State. He's a current
and the incoming
minister of the Niger Delta Affairs. Well, that's for your party to decide. But we have to run now. Thank you so much for your time.
We are giving you also the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's the program tonight. Clearly, a very engaging one with Senator Godswill. The coming days will be interesting, and we ask you to stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Good night.